The shelter worker looked Simone Carter dead in the eye and told her not to adopt the dog in Kennel 6. "He is 175 pounds, she said. "He was a guard dog before this. He does not trust people, and a woman living alone has no business taking on an animal like that." Simone signed the papers anyway, and 5 months later, on the worst night of her life, that 175-pound Boerboel did the one thing not a single person who had warned her ever thought he was capable of. He saved her life. Simone Carter was 31 years old and had moved to Richmond, Virginia 14 months earlier, 600 miles from everyone she had ever known. She told people it was for the job. The truth was quieter than that. She had needed to be somewhere nobody knew her, somewhere she could start over behind a door she could lock and a silence she could control. She was not lonely, she told herself, over coffee every morning at a table meant for two. She just lived alone, and she liked it that way. And if the evenings sometimes stretched out long and empty, that was a small price for peace. She was not looking for a dog. She was definitely not looking for one the size of a small horse. But on a Saturday in April, she drove to the Richmond Animal Shelter to drop off supplies for a co-worker's fundraiser. And on her way to the front desk, she passed Kennel 6, and she stopped. He was enormous, a brindle and fawn Boerboel, a South African guard breed built to stand between a farm and a lion, with a head like a boulder and loose skin folded around eyes that looked like they had already given up. His name, the card said, was Samson. He had been surrendered by a man who bought him to guard a property, then decided 175 pounds of dog ate too much and cost too much, and asked too many questions with those sad eyes. Samson had been in that kennel for 194 days. The card said he was good with people who earned it, and that most people did not stay long enough to try. The shelter worker, a kind, honest woman named Theb, did not sugarcoat a thing. "He is not mean," she said, "but he is a lot, and he does not warm up fast, and I would be lying if I told you a 175-pound Boerboel is an easy first dog for someone on their own. Most folks take one look and picture the worst." She nodded at the kennel, where Samson had not moved, had not barked, had only lifted his massive head and fixed Simone with a long, tired, waiting look, the exact look she caught in her own mirror most mornings. Simone crouched down. Samson rose, crossed the kennel, and pressed the side of his enormous head against the bars and held it there and let out a breath that seemed to come from the bottom of him. Simone did not fully understand what she did next. She only knew that for the first time in over a year, she did not want to walk away from something. She signed the papers that afternoon. The first week, Samson took over her small apartment the way a tide takes over a beach, slowly and completely and without asking. The couch went first. He tested it once with a paw and then flowed onto it, all 175 pounds of him, and looked at Simone as if inviting her to raise an objection. She raised no objection. She took the small corner that remained, and somehow that became her seat in her own home. Samson came with rules she had to learn. He would not let her close a door between them and would lie in the hall with his nose in the gap, sighing like a landlord who disapproved. The drool was a weather system all its own. Simone learned to keep a towel in every room, and Samson ate, the neighbor down the hall liked to remind her, like a professional. Her grocery bill doubled, and her apartment smelled like dog. And for the first time since she had moved to that city, Simone slept through the night. It happened without her deciding it. Samson took to sleeping on the floor beside her bed, and the sound of him breathing, slow and deep and enormous in the dark, was the first thing in 14 months that had quieted the part of her mind that never fully switched off. She stopped lying awake listening to a strange building settle. Nothing in the world could get to her without going through 175 pounds of Boerboel first, and some old tired part of her finally believed it and let her rest. She started talking to him out loud, over coffee, about nothing, the way she used to talk to people. Within about 3 days, Samson had learned her whole routine and appointed himself its escort, walking her to the door each morning and posting himself at the window until she came home each night. Samson would tilt his boulder of a head and groan back, and it was the closest thing to company she had had in a very long time. I know you are still watching but have not subscribed yet, and after a dog like Samson, that stings a little. Tap subscribe. This one sat in a kennel for 194 days, and subscribing is how dogs like him stop being invisible. Her neighbors, of course, had thoughts. An older man named Gerald, 2 doors down, told her flatly that a dog that size was a danger in a building full of people. A woman on the floor below left a note about the barking. Even her mother, on the phone from 600 miles away, got quiet and careful whenever Simone mentioned him. Simone listened to all of it. And then she watched 175 pounds of so-called dangerous dog fall asleep with his chin on her foot, and she stopped listening to any of them. She knew something they did not. She had started to notice, too, that Samson watched her more closely than an ordinary dog. When she was tired, he stayed nearer. Twice, on evenings when she had felt strangely off, lightheaded and thin, he had pressed himself against her and refused to leave her. And both times, she had told him he was being dramatic and gone to bed. She did not know yet that Boerboels were bred to notice everything, or that Samson had been noticing something about her that she had not noticed about herself. Then came a Thursday night in September. Simone had felt wrong all day. A strange gray heaviness she blamed on skipping lunch and too much coffee. She made it home, dropped her keys on the counter, and that was the last thing she remembered. Somewhere in a heart she did not know was failing, a rhythm went wrong, and Simone Carter collapsed on her kitchen floor alone, unconscious, with no phone in her hand and no one in the world within those walls, except Samson. What happened next, Simone only knows because her neighbors told her afterward. The 175-pound Boerboel that everyone in the building had been afraid of began to bark, and he did not stop. Samson threw his enormous body against the front door again and again until the frame shook. Samson howled, a sound none of them had ever heard, low and desperate and endless. And when the barking did not bring anyone fast enough, he did something a guard dog is not supposed to do. Samson clawed and hurled himself at that door until the old lock gave and he got out into the hallway, and he went straight to the one door he had passed every single day on their walks, Gerald's door, the man who had called him a danger, and he threw himself against it and roared. Gerald, furious, yanked his door open to shout at the dog, and Samson did not attack him, did not even acknowledge him, just spun and ran back down the hall to Simone's open door and stood in it, looking back, the way you look at someone you need to follow you right now. The same dog the shelter had warned her about, the same 194 days in a kennel had nearly broken, the same 175-pound Boerboel every single person in that building had called too big, too dangerous, too much, led a frightened old man to a woman dying on her kitchen floor and would not leave her side while Gerald, hands shaking, called 911. The paramedics arrived in 8 minutes. They told Gerald later that with what was happening in Simone's chest, a few more minutes on that floor alone and there would have been nothing anyone could do. She was rushed to the hospital and a device the size of a matchbox was placed in her chest to keep the rhythm of her heart from ever going that wrong again. A cardiologist with kind eyes told her in the plainest words she had that she had been minutes from not waking up and that the only reason she had was that something in that apartment had refused to let the world ignore what was happening. Simone spent 4 days in that hospital, and when she finally came home, weak and careful and alive, the first thing that happened was 175 pounds of Boerboel crossing the room and pressing his enormous head against her chest, right over the new device that kept her heart steady, as if he were listening to make sure it was still there. Word went around the building fast. The woman who had complained about the barking left flowers at her door. Gerald, the man who had called Samson a danger, now knocks every few days to see if Simone needs anything, and never once leaves without scratching that boulder of a head and telling the dog quietly, "Good boy." Deb, the shelter worker who had told her not to adopt him, heard the whole story and cried and asked if she could share it because in 15 years of watching people walk past the big, hard-to-place dogs, she had never had a reason like this to make them stop. Today, Samson is 5 years old, and he still owns the couch, and Simone still gets the corner. Samson still will not let a door close between them, the drool is still a daily event, and every single night he still sleeps on the floor beside her bed, breathing slow and deep and enormous in the dark. Except now, sometimes, Simone reaches down in the middle of the night just to feel him there, and every time, he is already awake. Because here is the truth that everyone who warned her missed. A dog is not dangerous because of his size, or his breed, or the heavy shape of his head. What makes a dog is who he decides to belong to, and exactly what he is willing to do to keep them safe. Samson waited 194 days in a kennel for a person of his own, and when a lonely woman the world had worn down finally crouched at his gate, he took over her couch, her home, and her whole guarded heart. And then, on the one night it mattered most, he tore down a door to keep her in this world. If you are thinking about adopting a dog, especially a big one, especially the one everyone keeps walking past, please do not listen to the fear. Go and meet him. Give him your patience and a fair chance, and understand that sometimes the dog the whole world called too much is the exact amount that saves your life. Because Simone did not rescue Samson. If you ask her, she will tell you without a second of hesitation that he rescued her. So let me ask you honestly, would you have taken home a 175-pound Boerboel the shelter itself told you to leave behind? Or would you have listened to the warning and walked away? Tell me in the comments. And if a dog the world gave up on ever walked into your life and changed it, say their name below so someone scrolling alone tonight knows what these dogs are really worth.